to say directly that the other side needs to be eradicated and wiped out. The problem is rising there, and I think if Israel has friends, the friends ought to be telling Israel to tame it down a little bit. Otherwise, the whole Muslim world from Indonesia to Morocco is going to unite against Israel. And guess what? The United States, we're joined at the hip with Israel, and we're going to be guilty by association. And we'll see some more 9/11 attacks. That's one of the things that scares me.
Oh, I'm thinking out loud. That's always fun. Hang on.
Perhaps not on that same subject.
We're live. Time to start sharing.
Okay, well, I'll
it's
move.
Sharing time.
Huh?
It's sharing time. Terribly exciting.
What does that mean?
And now I get to send a show all over the place before I get stopped. Somebody will stop me.
I don't think my presence is any help to this, so I'll get off and
you're
move.
Fine. Don't worry about it. You're fine. It's just me tonight. That's it. So
you have the ability to keep things rolling. I know you have.
I've invited enough people, but no one took me up on it. So, oh well.
We've had some pretty good guests going with me. For the most part, I've enjoyed listening to the guests lately.
Especially given how I feel, I think it's going to be a quick one. So I'm getting a lot worse all the time here.
Well, I'm going to be making some pie crust dough while I'm listening to you tonight.
Yeah. Girl is just tired.
I'm looking at 6 o'clock here.
Oh, wow, I got them all in. That's crazy. Yeah. It's really something special. I got them all in. Oh my goodness, this might be quick. I don't feel well at all.
Sorry to hear that.
Gotta get rid of it this week. All right, sir.
I'll mute myself.
Where'd you go? 6:01. What do you say we
Yeah.
do this?
Okay, well, carry on. Best of
3,
luck.
2, 1.
Do you want a man for president who's seasoned through and through, but not so doggone seasoned that he won't try something new? A man who's old enough to know enough to do. To you, it's up to you. It's strictly up to you. Do you want a man with spirit who is not afraid to fight? A loyal man who brings a job a fresh new point of view. Well, it's up to you. It's up to you. It's strictly up to you. And do you deny to any man the right he's guaranteed to be elected president, no matter what his creed? It's to which we must be true. It's up to you. It's up to you. It's strictly up to you. Do you like a man who answers straight, a man who's always fair? We'll measure him against the others, and when you compare, you'll cast your vote for Kennedy and the change that's overdue. So it's up to you, it's up to you, it's strictly up to you.
Welcome, welcome, welcome from my humble second bedroom here in the Saucon Valley, part of the Lehigh Valley in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, part of these United States, North American continent, Western Hemisphere, on this planet Earth, the only one we have. Third rock from the sun in the Terran solar system, part of the Milky Way galaxy. This is the Kennedy Effect, live with you for the 10th of December, 2023. It is our final live program of 2023. Well, why is that? There are a few more weeks that you could be with us. Well, first off, you don't need me that bad. No one does. But also because, let me get to that part of it. So why is this the last live program of the year and not next week? I will be on the road next week. And quite honestly, I simply don't know if I will be back in time to be live. It makes it hard to book a guest. It makes it hard to be on the air on time if I simply don't know if I'm going to make it. So we will be traveling next week. And it was just way more responsible of me, if you will, to not plan to be with you when I don't know 100% that I can be. So there's that. That is basically why we're not going to be with you next week. So this is, and then of course the following week is Christmas Eve. Nobody wants to watch this face on Christmas Eve when they should be, when all of you should be with friends, with family, at your house of worship, whatever it is that you do on a Christmas Eve. If it's, the traditional Italian Christmas Eve of more food and than you can even contemplate, because I've been through that. Or if you are in mass celebrating, if you are with friends, with family, if you're visiting, traveling, whatever it is that you should be doing, or that you choose to do, I should say, do that. You don't need to be having me bark into your ear on a Christmas Eve. Of course, then the following week from that would be New Year's Eve. Nobody needs to hear from me on New Year's Eve either. And then we'll get into January and get back to a somewhat of what we hope is a normal schedule. Now, if you hear anything special in my voice, or you're probably going to be hearing a lot of sniffling and coughing tonight. Kristen and I are trading something. She got it first, and now I got it, and it ain't fun. It's not deadly by any means. I don't think it's she's tested for COVID repeatedly. I don't think it's that. I think it's just a simple seasonal kind of cold. I don't think it's anything more than that, but it's not fun. Excuse me, it's not fun. We got the coughs and the sneezes and the stuffy and all that. And I'm so tired, I can't stand it. I'm so very tired. I mean, we've done more or less nothing for 2 straight days, and both of us are still, we can barely keep our eyes open. So I'm pounding the vitamins. She's pounding the orange juice. I have been drinking Airborne, the big capsules that you dissolve in water, for 2 days now, in the hopes that the massive vitamin infusion will do something for me. I don't know that it will. Let's get to the business end of the program, shall we? Let me do this a little quick. Right now, as you all may know, and I actually plan to review this a bit as we talk about 2023. We are both live on Facebook and on YouTube. We are at our home group Facebook page. Now I'm trying not to sneeze. This is very attractive for the video portion of our program. And I'm trying not to sneeze, because if I do, it's going to be 10 or 15 minutes before I'm done. We are live, and we have shared our program to 103, I think it is, places across the Facebook universe. And I know that I say this at the beginning of every program, but I say it because it's extremely important. We thank you for allowing us to do that. If you are an individual that shares our program, if you have a group, be it public or private, large or small, agree with me or not, the number of folks and groups and pages that continue to allow us to share our little program here, and newer groups that have allowed us to grow into their groups that will approve the posting of the show days, if not weeks, after it airs, but they continue to allow us to be part of their corner of the Facebook universe. We are eternally grateful to you. And perhaps the last live program of the year is yet another way, in another appropriate time, to get deep into that. Without any substantial advertising, you're not going to hear Home Depot commercials on here, or car commercials, or beer commercials, or sports betting commercials, or anything like that here. We just have the one advertiser pay give. That's it. And that is as much charitable as anything else. When you allow us onto your corner of Facebook, or if you are a TikTok follower who shares the program and my announcements, if you're a Instagram who found out about us from there, whatever it might be, we survive on that. We couldn't do it without you. We just literally couldn't do it without you. I say it every show. I say it too often, but I say it because it's true. We could not be here if you are not there. So we are so grateful to all of you. And what a great time to explain it and to remind you of all of it than our last live program of the year. To all the groups, to all the individuals, to all the pages, to everybody who has either taken in our program, given us a shot, tried us out, to all the administrators of all the different pages and groups, large and small, public and private, that allow us to continually be part of your group, my eternal thanks. And I hope that you will continue to do so into 2024. We are entering a year that is going to be more important than perhaps any since 1945 or 1865. So, or 1770 or 1789, perhaps. But we'll get into that deeper in the program. So thank you to my friends, my family, and everyone at hot101.net. We have completed yet another calendar year being part of the hot101.net family. We could not be more humbled and proud to continue to be part of that family. And the global reach, one of the innovators, originators, keystones, cornerstones, foundational stones of global internet radio, hot101.net. We couldn't be still on the air, I don't think, without them either. And we're very proud to be part of the hot101.net family. We're very humbled to be part of the hot101.net family, because obviously we don't do what the rest of the family does as far as music and so on, but we bring something different to it, and you have taken to it, and you're listening, and we're exceptionally grateful. And I mean it to every single last one of you that listens to us on hot101.net. Thank you. I still, unfortunately, have not gotten our first live call on the air from someone who was listening solely to 101. The calls seem to come through Facebook, and that's fine. I think we've gotten some calls through YouTube, and that's fine. I don't care how you call us. I just wish you all did. But I haven't had someone call and say, I'm listening to you right now on Hot 101. Now, hopefully in 2024, who knows? Maybe tonight that will happen. I certainly hope it happens in 2024. Please know, hot101.net, we are live right now. You can call this program. Our number should be on your screen inside the app, and if it's not, I will give you the number as we proceed. We are also proud to continue to be part of the TCP Media Group from Lancaster, PA. And it's an interesting, I think the holidays, Thanksgiving, whenever our anniversary comes as a program, and especially the holidays, Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year, as we end the calendar year, it becomes a very natural time to be reflective and to look back and to be thankful. And we are so thankful to have all the cooperation on Facebook that I mentioned, to be part of hot101.net, but also to continue to be part of the TCP Media Group. They are good human beings, and they're truly good and decent human beings. We're very glad that their page continues to be there. The interaction with it continues to be there. Folks continue to interact with the program through it and take the program in. And we're exceptionally grateful for that. Very, very grateful for that. And we just hope that all of that continues into 2024 and, as always, continues to grow. 267-227-9189, 267-227-9189. I threw the invitation open to a lot of different folks tonight, and I had I've had no takers, which is disappointing at a minimum. So it's just you and me, and I will ramble through a few topics while I feel well enough to do it. Right now, my nose is running something terrible, and it's terribly unattractive on a video. For listeners at 101 who are only taking in the audio, you should be very happy tonight because you don't need to see any of this. But for our video friends, I hope it ain't that gross. But that said, 267-227-9189, 267-227-9189. The number is right on your screen. It should also be on the hot101.net app. But if you don't have it or you can't see it, 267-227-9189, the same phone number we have had since our very first program. And of course, let me tell you about the PayGive app, www.paygive.org, PAYGIV.org. No E. The PayGive app is a financial transaction app. You move money with it. You can buy things through it. And every time that you do that, you can take a portion of that transaction, 5, 10, 20, 100,000, whatever you spend, dollars, and you can designate a portion of the fee of the transaction, because we know that's how these apps make their money, is on the fees. Mr. Musk did not make his billions through PayPal by doing it all for free. He took a chunk of every time you changed money, he took a piece and became the richest man on the planet through it. So PayGive, let's be honest, they do the same thing. They take a chunk. That's how they make their money. But what they also do out of that chunk, they give you the ability to designate where you would like a percentage of that money to go. Are you an animal lover? Are you deep into veterans affairs? Are you a cancer survivor? Do you have a family member who suffers from it? Are you involved in children's charities? Do you volunteer at children's hospitals? Things like that. And you can take a portion of that transaction and designate it to the charity of your choice. Among the ones that I continually mention are some big ones. I believe the Shriners Hospital is in there. The American Lung Association is there. American Cancer Society, the ASPCA. There's just so many different charities and organizations that you can donate to. Very, very well-known, reputable places where your money is safe. You can do all of it through the PayGive app. You make a purchase, you buy a gift card, whatever it is that you choose to do through the PayGive app. Out of the money that they would take, you get to designate a percentage of that to go where you want it. The PayGive app, I really desperately hope that you will try it. I hope you have downloaded it. I hope you use it. www.paygive.org and the PayGive app at the Apple App Store, the Google Play Store for Android. So check it out and try it. The PayGive app, you have to, when you buy things, you have to pay for them. Why not give while you do it? Let me go through a couple brief topics, because my sense is that this is not going to be a very long program, because wow, my nose is betraying me big time here. I think I fought off the sneeze, but nobody wants to watch my running nose and watch me run through a box of tissues, which I'm going to run out very quickly. I think I have one left. When we look back to think about 2023, what will be the things that we think about? Will they be largely personal? When we think about 2023 in the macro sense, this is a political talk show. So when we think of 2023 in a political time frame, as a political topic, what do we think about? Well, I've written a couple of things down. And I know that some of the takes on these topics will be old at this point, but yet they continue to be exceptionally relevant in my mind. We've been through 2 speakers of the House and an interim speaker of the House, a position that, by the way, hasn't existed. We had the first ever Speaker of the House kicked out of his job, or the job. No need to make it gender specific. We had the first Speaker of the House kicked out of the seat in the entire history of the country. Now, there are nations on Earth that are thousands of years older than the United States. When it comes to nations, we are a pretty young one in the history of the globe and the history of civilization. But yet, even our history is approaching 250 years old. And we saw here in 2023, for the very first time, the Speaker of the House kicked out of the job, fired, voted out by a majority in the House of Representatives that is only there through gerrymander. 10 Republican seats are gerrymandered seats. They now have a majority of, I think, 9 with the expulsion of Mr. Santos. Their majority is built on gerrymandering. More people across the country voted for Democrats in the House than voted for Republicans, but yet they still have a majority. We are truly in the era of minority rule. The framers of this country very, very intentionally wanted to protect the minority, but they never meant for the minority to rule. Majority always rules. So what does it say about our country, about the state of our union, if you will, that we saw the first speaker kicked out, fired? What does it mean that the man who eventually took his place is worse than the one that got kicked out? What does it say about the former political party known as Republicans? That the current speaker is the man who wrote a brief and submitted it to the Supreme Court about how the presidential election of 2020 should be thrown out and that Donald Trump should be declared president for a second term. Banana Republic stuff, dictatorship type stuff, fascist stuff. A man who continues to tout his own religiosity while violating the Establishment Clause pretty much every time he opens his face. What does it say? I've come to the conclusion that the R behind certain elected officials' names, if not all of them, certainly the overwhelming majority of them, R doesn't stand for Republican. I don't think there are any Republicans anymore. On her book tour, Mrs. Cheney has been talking an awful lot about, and it's been very, very interesting to hear she, Representative Kinzinger, former Governor Christy Todd Whitman, former House member Carlos Cabello, David Jolly, and a growing number, by the way, of folks, that there is no longer a Republican Party. Not just that the Republican Party isn't the party they joined or belonged to or served in, but that it quite literally is not a party any longer. That it is not a functioning political party. That there is no longer a Republican Party. Which is something that I have been saying here probably since the inception of the program, to be honest. I don't think there is a functioning Republican Party. In fact, I don't think there is a Republican Party. There are people that call themselves that, but I don't know that the actual party itself exists anymore. There are people that call themselves Knights Templar, but the Knights Templar don't exist anymore either. There are lots of people, as we have seen throughout the guests that we've brought to you in 2023, there are lots of people who call themselves Christian. That doesn't make them one. So these folks that continue to call themselves Republicans, I don't know that there are any anymore. I truly don't. And we need to, I really hate saying it. We gotta wait. It's true though. We do need to understand and to come to grips, if you will, with the fact that that party doesn't exist anymore. That we are in a one-party state, and it's not healthy. It's not. My party is the only functioning political party left in the country at a nationwide scope. We saw Working Families Party got some folks elected in Philadelphia, and that's not a small achievement. That's a big achievement. We've seen outright socialists elected, running as socialists in Seattle, and I believe DC as well. But for a national party with candidates in every election, the Democratic Party is the only party left that's functioning. We're the only party left that's trying to govern. We're the only party left that's trying to fix anything. It's trying to solve any problems. Republicans don't, the R after these folks' name don't stand for Republican anymore. In my mind, it stands for quite a number of things. They might start with R, but Republican isn't one of them. That R behind Matt Gaetz' name stands for rage, retribution, retaliation, and racism. That's what it stands for. They should start putting 4 R's behind these folks' name. And none of those R's are Republican. This is a party that, as Mrs. Cheney, Mr. Kinzinger have told us, is taking the nation on a sleepwalking tour directly into fascism, directly into dictatorship. They have used the word autocracy. I don't think autocracy quite covers it. I don't think it's serious enough of a word. I don't think it's alarmist enough of a word. I'm not even sure it's completely accurate. We are being marched slowly. The terrible, terrible, terrible analogy, I hate it, of the frog boiling in the pot, toward fascism, toward a complete end of democracy in this country. And the 2024 election is nothing short of that. It is a referendum on democracy. Do you still want it or don't you? One of the great achievements, and this is not a positive achievement, but it is an achievement, is that the former political structure known as Republicans, the Koch network, the former party, the billionaire class, what they've done very successfully is to convince about 40% of the people that democracy is no longer necessary, that they will rule over them. And these blind fools will say, yes, put your boot on our throat. We're happy to have it. Imagine the danger of that, the true danger of that. That about 40% of the population is willing to say, yes, take everything from us. take our vote, our freedom, our wealth, our property, take it all, and willingly try to make that happen, willingly try to foster that. That's nothing short of an achievement by the billionaire class. Back in the day, Republicans have always been on the side of the wealthy and the corporations. But they were never totalitarian about it. They were never fascist about it. They are now. One of the things I have written down here is that Trump and the Republicans, by the way, that surround him, some of them running for president, quote unquote, against him, they're telling you exactly who they are and what they want to do. I suggest we listen to them and believe them. Mr. Trump has talked about suspending the Constitution, that the two-term restriction on the presidency is unlawful, that he would like to change it he'd like to stay president as long as he feels like it. To be honest with you, I think the two-term restriction on the presidency is unconstitutional as well. If there are 3 co-equal branches of government, then there shouldn't be term limits on one and not on the other 2. But because it's actually in the Constitution, that's what makes it constitutional. If you put Mary Had a Little Lamb, wrote it inside the Constitution, it would become constitutional. He has talked about executing political rivals and those who have openly disagreed with him in public and in the media. The chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, a 5-star general, Mark Milley. Trump has said he should be executed publicly. He has lined up, by some reports, hundreds of people to fill presidential appointed jobs that would not just change the function of the job, but literally change the fundamental characteristics and functioning of government, profiting themselves and Trump all the way. The dismantling of governmental departments. The end of environmental and banking regulations. He's talked about jailing political rivals like Adam Kinzinger and Liz Cheney, and still Hillary Clinton. Just arbitrarily arresting them and throwing them in prison for no reason, for no charge. He's telling you exactly who he is and what he wants to do. He was just quoted as saying, I think it was yesterday, that he doesn't want to be a dictator. He just wants to be a dictator for one day. Well, there's probably about 100 different ways to look at that, but let's look at that rather simply. It only takes one day. And does anybody think that that person, that man, if given all overarching, encompassing powers for a day, would ever give it up? The most recent volume of the Atlantic magazine has been dedicated to what a second Trump term would look like. And it is dystopian. It is right out of a science fiction novel. And it is largely based on exactly what I've just been talking about in more broad terms. The dismantling of government, the end of environmental regulation, banking regulations, the ability for monopolies to grow, a fascist corporate state, the end of the vote, war on blue states and cities, a place where women are relegated back to medieval status. You've probably heard about this, Project 2025, I'm talking about something even more visceral than that. A literal end of the American experiment. And I don't think any of this is hyperbole. I think it is, again, what we're being told they will do. So why wouldn't we believe them? And if you should think that any of the other folks running for president are any better, no. Nikki Haley would rule with an iron fist if she could get away with it and become fabulously wealthy in the process. Ron DeSantis has already showed you he would, because he's done it to Florida. Florida is not a functioning democracy anymore. Mr. Ramaswamy, I think, is literally only running for money, because he certainly has no policy to talk about or to run on. The only one who might still allow a Democratic Republic in this country is Chris Christie, and he is as power hungry as any of the rest of you. I lived there for his 8 years as governor in New Jersey. They're telling you who they are. They're telling you what they want to do. They have told us all throughout 2023. And now it's almost 2024, and it's going to be time to start voting soon. They've told you who they are and what they want to do. Will we allow that as a society, as a country? Will we allow that? Is that who we're going to be? Let me talk about a couple of you know what? Let me here's where, I just had this discussion with Kristen last night when we were feeling sick, trying to watch something on television that would take our minds off of it. Just not working, by the way. Can't keep my breath. This is gonna be a short show, kids. I can't keep oxygen coming in here. Here's a way that the billionaire class has conditioned the American population, as well as, I believe it's an ongoing conditioning as well as a result of the conditioning, all at the same time, if that could be possible. And it's a commercial that you might have seen. It's a Hobby Lobby commercial. Now, I won't set foot in Hobby Lobby because of their open hatred of the LGBTQ community. Not, in the very, even though the CEO of Hobby Lobby, that family, is supposedly exceptionally Christian, but yet they hate an entire segment of the society, which is about as anti-Christian as you can get. They also hoard wealth, which is about as anti-Christian as you can get. But that said, I'm watching this commercial, and it's a single mom, teenage son. She comes in from work. She's dressed in nurse's scrubs, goes in to find a sink full of dishes this deep. She doesn't even take a shower, changes into, I forget what the second uniform is. I want to say it's a waitress or something like that, but I could very well be wrong, and immediately runs back out. The kid is sitting on the couch playing a video game. When she comes in, there's a basket of laundry there that needs to be done. She has no real time to do anything. She basically comes in. She doesn't even eat, at least in the commercial. Maybe there's a longer version of the commercial that I'm not aware of, but she doesn't even eat, drink, nothing. Changes and leaves again. And what the beauty of the commercial is supposed to be is that the son has a bit of an epiphany and says, instead of just sitting, and there's no dialogue in the commercial, it's all music, and But you see on his face a bit of an epiphany come. He looks at the basket of laundry, he looks into the kitchen, and a Christmas tree is up but is not decorated. And decides that what he's going to do is kind of start stepping up around the house and take some of these responsibilities onto himself. But what they do is they show him go to a pawn shop to sell his video game. And of course, after he does that, he comes home. He's dressed now in a sweater and nice pants. The kitchen is clean. The laundry is done with a big bow on it. And the Christmas tree is decorated. And his mother comes in from whichever job she was working. And that's supposed to be the beautiful part, the really lovely part of the commercial. That, we look what he did. And here's the part that drives me nuts. Here's the part where I think it all goes wrong. And the hypocrisy of this is staggering. Gosh, it's absolutely staggering. Because on the one hand, Republicans have demonized poverty. They have turned it into a crime. Folks that are poor are meant to be shunned, laughed at, looked down upon. They are meant to be talked about, castigated. They are not full citizens. They're just the working poor. They don't generate wealth. They do help generate wealth for the billionaire class, but they're not consumers. They don't have enough wealth to be extracted to be useful. They are the flotsam and jetsam of the society. So on one hand, we have this billionaire class fascist Republican hierarchy that has established this narrative that the poor are meant to be shit on, basically. But yet, on the other hand, in this Hobby Lobby commercial, oh, you're so poor that you have to sell your own shit? The very few possessions that you have to sell them just for some Christmas decorations, a red bow, and laundry detergent? Good for you. Sell that stuff. At the same time that the billionaire class has made mockery of and made criminals out of the poor, they are trying to normalize it. It's okay to be dead poor. It's okay to have to sell the very few possessions that you have for simple things like laundry detergent or a couple of ornaments for the tree or dish soap. Not making enough money? 3 jobs not enough? Sell what you got just to get by. The only problem with that, of course, is you only have so many things you can sell before you have nothing left. When did we become the country that finds it acceptable for the poorest among us to sell the precious few possessions that they may actually have simply to survive? Is that who we are? Is that what a real Christian nation does? Is that who we are? Sell what you got. You didn't need that video game anyway. You didn't need that car, that TV, that refrigerator. all those clothes. One pair of shoes is enough. One winter coat. Food, no worries. There's a McDonald's down the street. Is that who we are? That rather than try to combat poverty, rather than look ourselves in the mirror as a greater society and say we're better than this, instead of looking into our own history where we have made gargantuan efforts to eliminate poverty in this country. The Great Society programs of President Johnson cut poverty in half. The New Deal saved the planet from poverty. Instead of those people, are we really the people that say, yeah, go ahead, sell that stuff. You didn't need that anyway. No creature comforts for you. You're poor. You have a roof over your head. That's quite enough. And you have a McDonald's down the street. At the same time we attack and demonize the poor, we try to normalize it. It's perfectly okay to sell the very few things that you have just to survive. And we wonder why people steal. Robbery, for the most part, is a crime of desperation. I'm stealing money to buy food. I'm stealing money to see a doctor. These are crimes of desperation. Crimes that we have forced a good number of people into. Not everybody. There are genuine criminals out there. There are genuinely bad folks that just do the wrong thing. And we have systems in place for that. But there are other folks who are just trying to survive. And I find it amazingly ironic that an ad campaign, a Christmas ad campaign from a company that downright hates a percentage of this population and doesn't think they should exist, owned by a billionaire fake Christian family who has helped to promulgate poverty by paying crap wages to the people who work for them, is trying to tell you that poverty, and who has openly been anti-union, fought unionization, fight labor laws, all that stuff, has openly demonized the poor, is now somehow trying to tell you through their cute little Christmas commercial that poverty's perfectly okay. Just, you can't afford something, just sell your stuff. No problem. Get 3 jobs and sell your stuff. You're good. My goodness, is that all we've come down to now? After 43 years of Reaganism, is that all we have left? Hate the poor, but also somehow try to convince everybody that being poor is perfectly okay. How have we allowed ourselves to be tricked into this? Randall, go ahead, my friend.
Hey, Jeff. I'm sorry you and Christine aren't feeling well, number one. And I hope you get. Yeah, I've been saying for decades, literally decades, that the former Soviet Union and the United States of America are moving towards each other. And after the Soviet Union fell, and it seemed like there was a glimmer of hope in Russia, of democracy, and a free enterprise, we've seen Russia devolve totally into an oligarchy, ruled by one oligarchist named Putin. And I said at that time, the way things are going in America, a family is going to be living 8 people, 3 generations in a 2-bedroom apartment with substantial health care, with substantial food. And that's obviously where we're going. Destroy the poor first, destroy the working class of the middle class second, and then destroy the middle of the middle class.
And let's remember something that happened this year in 2023 for the first time since this poll question has been asked of the American public. At the height of the implementation of New Deal policies, the late 50s, early 60s, 1950s, 1960s, I think its height, and I'm working from memory. Somebody can, DuckDuckGo or Google it and correct me, and you can always correct me when I'm wrong. But at the height of the implementation of the New Deal and the effects of it, about 62% of the American public considered themselves middle class. Now, that's a self-identification poll. Do you feel that you are part of the American middle class, whether they were statistically or not? About 62% of the folks said yes. And it turns out that in that era, they were pretty much right. It was about 63% of the country. Now, for the first time since that poll question has been asked, and I believe it started after the Republican Great Depression. So you're talking about, what, 80? I can't do that math in my head. Well, you're coming up, 2029, you're coming up in 100 years. So 90 plus years. For the first time, that is now under 50%. It's about 47% of the country self-identifies as middle class. How much of the population is actually middle class? Well, it depends on the metrics that you use. It depends on the study that you look at. I have seen as low as 25%. And I haven't seen anything higher than 47%. That's a hell of a range. I openly and freely admit that. That's a hell of a range. But the bottom line of it is that even we ourselves know that we are no longer in the middle class. We know we are no longer a middle class nation, but we are a nation of extremes. The question is, what are we going to do about it? Are we going to continue to accept it? Are we going to be the elderly people at the holiday table say, I don't know about all this environmental stuff, I'll be dead anyway? Is that how we're going to approach the economy? Is that how we're going to approach our fellow man and woman and children, to say, too bad, not my problem? I have told you on this program 1,000 times that one of the great myths of Thatcherism and Reaganism is the feeling that, the thought that, the theory that we are not a society, but merely a cobbled together group of rugged individualists, and that it's our job to just watch out for ourselves and take care of ourselves and personal liberties and personal responsibilities and pull yourself up by your bootstraps and all that other shit, because that's exactly what it is. All that other complete bullshit. We are a society. We are a community. For as many silly jokes, dumb, uneducated, silly jokes as Mrs. Clinton took for her book, It Takes a Village, she's right. It does. When my house burns, my neighbor damn well better be worried about his or her house. And if their house is burning, I better be worried about mine. If their son is killed in combat, that affects me. If they die on the streets unsheltered, that affects me. The same way, in a positive point of view, if they join a union that affects me. Or if I join a union, that affects them. So Randall's right. What a shock. Randall's right. Randall's right a lot. When he says that there's this fallacy that we're individuals. Yes, we are individuals. We're all different. We have different likes and different dislikes, and we have different things that motivate us, and we have different, we enjoy different foods, and we might enjoy different types of music, or some people are mountain people, some people are oceanfront people. Some people love the forest, others a sandy beach. Some people are afraid of heights, some people are pilots. But we're also society. We are not a group of rugged individuals. We are society. And our society, the American society, realizes that it's being screwed. There's a significant number of that 40% of the cult of Trump who will tell you that they're being screwed. The cult part comes in as they think he's going to fix it. When he has 4 whole years to tell you he's not going to do anything of the like. And they still follow it. He's talked about ending the American experiment, not changing it, ending it. And still they follow. What do the rest of us do? How do we decide to live? What kind of country do we want to be? Or do we even want to be a country at all anymore? These are not hyperbolic questions. These are the questions of 2024. Sadly, I don't think we're going to have a hell of a lot of debate about tax policy or aid to Ukraine or even border policy. As much as Trump will try to make a thing of it, I don't think we're even going to talk about that much. The discussion of 2024 is that Hobby Lobby commercial who we want to be? Work 3 jobs, you're still so poor that you have to sell the few things that you have to stay alive. If you see the commercial, by the way, you will see that the mother in the commercial is painfully thin. The boy is painfully thin. Were they trying to send a subconscious message that they're starving? I doubt it. But guess what? I picked up on it. And I ain't the smartest tool in the shed, I guarantee you. The woman's face is drawn in. She has dark circles under the eyes. And her teenage son is about that thin. How they had a sink full of dirty dishes, I have no idea, because it didn't look like either one of them eats. But that's okay, son. Go sell your stuff. Go ahead, Randall.
Yeah, you missed the prime word. It's subliminal brainwashing. To accept that it's okay to be poor. It's okay to work 3 jobs. It's okay that your rent has gone up 30%. Oh, it's okay. Your food prices have gone up 30%. You posted this week. Maybe I did. I can't remember. But it was Hartman's. No, it was you. It was Hartman's Friday show where he was pointing out, food corporations have absorbed all the smaller food corporations. And there's only 4 major food corporations in America now controlling all food. And there used to be like 15 oil companies, and now there's really only 5.
Yep.
And, the monopolistic.
Before the banking crash of 2008, there was about, in the United States, there was about, I think 11 major banks. There's now about 5 or 6. We're in a worse position than we were before the crash of 2007, 2008, the Great Recession.
Yes, we are in a much worse situation now. And yeah, I'm retired and have disabilities, and that kind of forced me to have to retire. My wife works 2 jobs. That's and we're middle class still, but barely. You know, um, Wall Street, and some states it's 17% to 20% of all lower priced houses, single homes, have been bought by Wall Street, further taking away a beginning family, a starter family, to become homeowners. Because if everything is owned by the bank, then they just are going to rent and increase the rent. So yeah, we're in a bad situation in 2023 going into 2024.
Are you optimistic at all?
I I pray a lot that something will change at the polling booth next November, and that change will obviously not be Trump as president, or we will be in a fascist country. No ifs, ands, or buts. And I pray
he said it.
That
he said
it.
He
said day one. He said day one he's going to do it. Absolutely, absolutely.
I mean, I don't know what to say.
I'm literally in the middle between being a pessimist and an optimist.
Yeah, that's not hard.
And yeah, like I guess I throw the dice and see which way it goes by dice. Anyway, I hope some other people call in because there's a lot to talk about this year. Not just the economics that we have talked about so far. But like the environmental, the COP, was it COP 29, 28?
The one that's happening now is COP 28.
Yeah, it's just been a massive failure again. Talk, and do nothing. Luckily, our president, Joe Biden, EPA, is finally going to do something about methane emissions. Methane is 80 times more destructive per pound in the atmosphere than CO2 for causing global warming. And yet, methane will break down in 14 years, whereas CO2 takes 100 years to break down in the atmosphere. So if we can really do something about methane, about all the gas wells, all the oil wells, all the flaring at refineries and flaring in the field of methane, we can make a real impact on saving the world environment before we reach a tipping point or point. Go ahead.
Well, there's some folks that think that we've already passed those points.
Yep. Some people.
There's a I'm forever forgetting his name. There's a professor at Penn State, which is very ironic because one of the leading environmental scientists is an optimist, is also at Penn State. But it was one of his colleagues that has said, we're already done. really not much of a reason to bother with much of this anymore because it's already too late. We now have to think about ways to change how we build structures, how we're going to live. We have to consider going underground because it's simply going to become too hot here. That the sun will be entirely too intense, that we just can't do this. It's already too late. And I have to wonder how many people feel the same way. How many people feel that it's too late? Now, I don't think the fossil fuel industry thinks it's too late. I think they're just lazy. They think they're lazy. They think they just want to pump and drill because that's what they do. And it's much less expensive as far as corporate investment to just continue to do what you do, especially when global subsidies for doing it make your business almost free. The amount of subsidies that are handed out around the globe to the fossil fuel industry is in upwards of $5 trillion. Those subsidies pretty much wipe out your operating costs. Any money that you make is clean profit that by and large they don't pay tax on. So why would they move to a green company, corporation? Why would they move away from fossil fuels when everything that they do is paid for? It's all free. And all the money's free, and the stock buybacks are free, and all of it. But there's still us. After it's all said and done, there's still us. I will not get gas at Exxon. After the Valdez, I will not buy gas from them, period. I won't. We can vote with our wallets. I mentioned to you when talking about the Hobby Lobby commercial. We won't shop there. We can vote with our wallets. And we need to be doing more of it. Republicans love to tell you that the free market will solve all of our problems, and then they rig the free market to make sure that none of the problems get solved. This is not a political party. It's the hypocrisy party. Racism, rage, retaliation, and retribution. Except the people that they're mad at are the people that are telling them that they're mad. And they haven't connected that yet. Sadly. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's not just Hobby Lobby being a pseudo-Christian billionaire family. It's also the pseudo-Christian family that owns Chick-fil-A, and their hate for LGBTQ people and their hate for working people. So yeah, there's only one Koch brothers left, but the Koch economic empire is still just as strong if both brothers were alive, and poured just as much money into electing these so-called former Republicans into office, whether on a local level, state level, or federal level. And
that
that's
local
exactly
level goes all the way down to school boards, by the way.
Oh yeah.
That local level goes down a long way.
Yep. Townships and boroughs here and cities here in Pennsylvania, and public school systems across Pennsylvania, and the same thing around the nation. Absolutely. It's much cheaper to buy the low level politicians versus the federal politicians.
It's how they took control of the Senate. They found out that they put a business approach to it. It's a lot cheaper to buy off Kansas and Montana and Idaho and Wyoming, the Dakotas, than it is to try to buy California or New York or even Virginia or Illinois,
And yet,
Massachusetts.
there is some optimism for the people on a lot of issues. And I'll bring up one. You mentioned Kansas. Kansas, in their primary in August of 2022, Kansas voters, and that includes Republican voters, overwhelmingly voted to guarantee in the Kansas state constitution a woman's right to choose. And I just read a news article yesterday. Kansas has become the 45% of all abortions in Kansas now are from out of state, surrounding states where Republican regimes have made it totally illegal to have an abortion, for example. Totally made it illegal to save a mother's life. Totally made it illegal that you have no viable fetus. It is dead in that woman's womb. Get it out. It's decomposing and creating more health problems for that mother by not removing that dead fetus from her womb.
I heard somebody this week said something pretty on point. I'm talking about the Texas case, and if you're not familiar with the Texas case, I can only offer you a very cursory overview of it. A woman in Texas who already has, I believe, 3 children. She's married, only ever been married once. This is the very prototypical American family. Got pregnant again. The fetus was tested. It has an extra chromosome, which means that it will be, if it even survives to be born, it will be horribly deformed and will, in all likelihood, only survive for a matter of hours after it is born. And those hours will be excruciating. They will be painful, and that the child will suffer immeasurably until it dies. The absolute best case scenario, given this chromosomal abnormality, great word, thank you for that, I was struggling for it. The best case scenario, the most that any child has lived with it, is a year. And by all descriptions that I have been exposed to, that year is, again, excruciating. It is painful. It is miserable. It is not an existence that any one of us would want. So the family went to court in Texas because they can't get an abortion in Texas, because the fact that the fetus is horribly malformed and possibly dead, that's not good enough. She still has to carry that to term according to Texas law. Even though, as Randall mentioned, if the fetus is dead and or dying, could kill her as well. And on top of that, if she does carry it to term, it will probably leave her infertile going forward. That her husband and she will no longer be able to have children. And so, the typical talking head shows, I've taken probably too many of them, and they're talking about this case. And one of the guests, and I wish I could remember who it was that actually said it, because it was so it was so just spot on and so very natural the way she said it, and it was a woman that said it. When does the pro-life part start? Where's the pro-life movement in all of this? Because there's nothing pro-life about it. It's about power. It's not about returning to the United States to the 50s, the 1950s, about the 1150s, the dark ages in Europe. No vaccinations, no science, no medicine. Women were birth canals. We've seen the average life expectancy in the United States go down in the last several years. Go down. Unless you're a member of the economic top 1%, your life expectancy has gone up. If you're in the 99%, it's gone down. All directly related to money. If you have it, you get to live longer. If you have it, you can fly somewhere else and have an abortion. If you have it, you can see any doctor you want, spend any amount of money you want to buy any politician you want. You don't have to sell your video game to decorate a Christmas tree. And if you don't have money, too effing bad for you. I go back to Alan Grayson on the floor of the house. Die quickly, because at least you won't be miserable as long.
At least you won't be leaving a debt to your wife or to your children, a medical debt that they will have to pay off.
I can't keep any air in. I can't breathe through my nose, so it's hard to keep talking without running out of breath. Patricia mentions in the comments that she's not into a post-mortem tonight. I happen to understand that entirely. The weather has been yucky and it's affecting my health. I agree with that as well. I found it very hard to breathe outside today. My head feels like it's underwater. Yep, I'm right there. But it's the end of the year, not the end of hope. Feel better, everyone. We cannot give in to dystopian talk just yet. I wish you all healing and renewed strength for the continued 2024 fight that we must have. Patricia is spot on. What else you got, my brother? Because I might make it to the end of the half hour, and that might be it.
Hour.
I can't breathe. It's hard to, if I have to breathe.
Speaking of climate change. Speaking of climate change.
Good.
It's right now down here in Delaware County. I'm about less than a mile and a half from the Delaware River. And it's just pouring cats and dogs. And the wind, we're going to be gusting later tonight into the morning, like I think 40 to 45 miles per hour. And the coast is going to be higher than us for winds. This is that front that started in the Pacific West, came across, dumping tons of snow in the northern tier, Idaho, Montana, and came down and then got pushed up. That caused all the tornadoes yesterday in Tennessee and 3 other southern states. And here, the whole 95 corridor, going from Washington D.C. to Maine is just getting hit bad. And God, thank God it's raining once, because they're looking now, they're projecting 2.5 inches, maybe even 3.5. If you take the medium average between dry and wet snow, it's 12 inches for 1 inch of rain. So we could be under feet of snow if it was snow instead of rain.
Yeah, I know that the forecast was that it's supposed to get colder and that this is supposed to turn to snow. I just looked at the Weather Channel, and I don't think that's going to happen. And that's perfectly fine with me. Kristen's looking forward to the snow, but it's perfectly fine with me because Randall's 100% right. We're supposed to get 3 to 4 inches of rain times 12, 36 to 48 inches of snow. And if it changed over somewhere in the midst of that, again, he's right, another inch of rain would be a foot of snow. But I just don't see it. I know that's what the forecast was. It just doesn't look like it's going to get cold enough. I have taken the dog out a couple times today, much to her chagrin, because she would really rather be doing an awful lot more than what we are able to do with her tonight and during the day, really. Kristen took her out for a really, really great run this morning and play and all that fun stuff, but she's been bored out of her skull the rest of the day once it started raining. But when I have taken her out, it's felt like spring outside. It's not damp, it's humid. And there's a difference. Most people know there's a difference. It's not damp outside, it's humid. And here it is, December 10th, and I was outside in a t-shirt with the dog and feeling rather comfortable, to be honest. I'm not sure I would have stayed out there for hours in just a t-shirt, but certainly the few minutes that I had the dog out, I was perfectly comfortable. In fact, I was sweating. And that might be part of being sick too, but she she was perfectly happy being out there, and she doesn't like the rain so much, but the warm temperatures, she was happy being out there. It felt like spring. And I suspect it probably still does. I just looked at the Weather Channel, like I just said. It says it's still 57 degrees outside. It's been dark for 3 hours, and it's 57 degrees on December 10th, almost December 11th. I mean, you don't have to be an astrophysicist to know that something's changed and something's different. And as bad as the storm is, for everything that Randall mentioned, this isn't even that bad of a storm, folks. It's not a hurricane. It's not a tropical storm.
It's not
It's not a
nor'easter.
nor'easter. You beat me to it. That's not it's not a nor'easter. It's just a rainstorm, isn't it? Except that usually you don't have rainstorms where you get, a month's worth of rain in a 24-hour period. And it's become all too normal. We rarely, if ever, get a light, steady rain that might rain. It might rain for 24 hours, but the kind of light and steady rain that we would get when we were kids, that we might actually go out and play in the rain. It doesn't seem to happen anymore. It either downpours to a dangerous level, creeks overflow, the whole 9 yards, storm systems can't handle it, and then you don't see anything for 10 days. And then you're right back to talking about drought again. Nothing is normal about this. And not science, the oil companies have known it since the late 50s, and they suppressed all of it, which goes back to, what I was talking about the oil companies not changing anything. Fern mentions in the chat, that's the second topic you hit tonight that Dan and I addressed today. Dan very specific. Oh, don't fade away there. Quote, Dan very specifically stated that they are not trying to take us back to the 50s. The other way that they're forcing poverty to feel like the norm. I believe, where my work with the home. Yep. Yeah. So you can, look, folks on the right can say they're not trying to drag us back to the 50s, but just open your eyes and look around. And I'm not necessarily disagreeing with Fern. I'm just saying these folks are telling you who they are. They're telling you who they are. They're telling you what they want to do. I suggest that we listen to them. One of the phrases from 2023 that's become all too pervasive, and it's become all too cliche, is saying the quiet parts out loud. I don't think self-identified Republicans are even saying the quiet parts out loud anymore. They're just flat out saying it because they have so brainwashed and so bought out a significant percentage of our fellow Americans that they can say anything and not have to pay for it in any way, shape, or form. The percentage of, I saw a poll not too long ago that even a majority of self-identified Democrats thought that violence was an acceptable way to pursue a political point. It was 51%, if I'm not mistaken. That's frightening. When the Democrats are ready to go to war, civil war, political civil war, that's a damn frightening thing. By the way, it was 67% of Republicans, 2/3, that thought violence was a perfectly acceptable way to enforce a political point or win a political argument. I.e., for example, January 6th. This is now the former political party that thinks violence is not just an ends to a means, or means to an end, but the means and the end. I don't know that they see it any longer as a straight line. I think they just see it as, let's skip to the end of the book.
It's like the Roman Republic.
The end of the Roman
when it switched over to be an empire. The aristocracy of the Senate, they all took their knives out on the Ides of March. They all killed Julius Caesar because they felt their power was threatened by him. We'll never really know whether if he had become the first emperor of Rome versus his adopted son Augustus becoming the first emperor of Rome. We'll never really know if he would have tried to restore the republic. And I truly believe he would have tried to restore the republic, not to go toward oligarchy, Senate control of Rome and empire, not to reduce the taxes on the rich in the Roman Empire, but to impose more taxes on the poor. And there's, I'm a history major, so there's a lot of things that stand out in history that seem to be very similar to what we are going through.
Well, I've said on this program before, and you know all too well, that Bernie Sanders has likened the decline of the United States to the fall of the Roman Empire. That we have over 800 military bases in 184 different countries, and rich people decided they don't feel like paying for it anymore. So what's that sound like? That would be the fall of the Roman Empire. And I mean, it's just not a stretch. It really isn't. It's not. And again, I don't think it's hyperbolic. It is where we are. But we have to decide, is this who we want to be? Is this all that we are? Is this what we, is this all we are? Are we happy with this? Is this enough? Don't we deserve and or want more? And
you've got so many Republicans, and now it seems like nonpartisan voters are moving more closer towards the pseudo Christianity.
Mike Malloy calls them the Mike Malloy calls them the Christo-fascists, or the Christo-white nationalists, or sometimes it just lumps it all together in a big row, and the Christo-white nationalist fascist.
Yep.
And now look, folks, I will vote for President Biden to be reelected, period. I will. It's not even a question to me. He will be the Democratic nominee, barring anything pretty wildly unforeseen. And I will do so very happily. There are things that his administration has not done that I wish he would have. I don't know how Louis DeJoy is still in charge of the post office. I don't know how Trump's appointee to the Social Security Administration is still in power. I don't know why the hell Jerome Powell is still in charge of the Fed, the first banker ever to be in charge of the Fed, not an economist. But all of that said, he has been the most progressive president since Johnson, and I could argue since Roosevelt himself. The jobs number that just came out on Friday, I think it was Friday, might have been Thursday, that the economy continues to add jobs at rates that are that all the political pundits and economists and so on are saying, nah, it's not going to be. It's going to be a quiet month. You're going to see the jobs number go down. Another, not, I wouldn't say it's not record setting, but certainly well above estimates. In a country of 330 million people, where not all 330 million work, you have children, although we could talk about the erasure of child labor laws. But in a country of 330 million people, where you consider, if you take the elderly and the and children out of it, the available workforce in this country, I think, is somewhere in the 200 million range. And unemployment is only at about 3.7%. Now, I've told you before that I don't think the unemployment rate is really the statistic that matters. It's the labor participation rate. What's the participation of the eligible workforce that is actually working? That number continues to climb. It was at a low, an all-time low, during the Trump administration and the George W. Bush administration. And I got to be fair, it wasn't terribly much better during the Obama administration. But the labor participation rate is now growing. The number of people active in the workforce is growing, not the unemployment rate, not the number of jobs that are not filled, not the number of people who are not working, but the percentage of people who are eligible to work that are actually working. That number is growing. He has cut student debt. He has put unprecedented amounts of money into infrastructure, and that infrastructure bill is working, folks. If you drive around Pennsylvania, there's jobs. Well, there's jobs too, but there's projects going on everywhere. If you come from my original home state of New Jersey, you know that there are projects being done everywhere. These are projects that are being done all across the country. This bill is working. Unprecedented amounts of money into green energy, into trying to green the economy. He has been a flat-out success. And by the way, it's red states. Deep, dark red states. Southern states. The old Confederacy.
They get the most amount of infrastructure money.
They're benefiting the most from the CHIPS Act, where the government actually paid these effing corporations to bring their manufacturing back here. Something we never should have had to do, by the way. But he did it. And overall, I supported it because it's what it was going to take. They were never going to move the manufacturing back here on their own when they could have child slave labor in China make their computer chips for them. Now they just have Southern white slave labor. It's those states that are benefiting more disproportionately from the CHIPS Act and the Infrastructure Acts. And still, he's too old. Damn Democrats who should all be rounded up and put in concentration camps, blah, 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 blah. We have a serious, serious fight on our hands in 2024. We have a battle for the soul of the nation. We have to ask ourselves, and we have to ask this 40% of the country that is wandering in the wilderness, is this who you really are? Is this all that you are? Are you not better than this? Do you not deserve better than this? Because all these folks will tell you, yes, I do. These diehard Republican voters in the South who are working in microchip factories that President Biden delivered them, probably ill-informed enough to tell you that it was Trump that did it, because that's what Fox told them. And that's what One American News told them. And we have to be strong enough and brave enough to confront them with the truth, no matter how much they deny it. These folks need to be educated. Not because they're dumb, but because they're stupid. Because there's a difference. Dumb is when you go put your hand on the hot burner on the stove and you burn it. Dumb, because you didn't know any better. Stupid's when you do it twice, because you did know better, but you did it again anyway. These folks are not dumb. They're stupid. They're closed off. They're brainwashed. And I think deep in their heart, they're better than this. I think some of them vote that way simply because they've never voted any other way. Some are completely closed off. They don't want to hear anything. If it comes from the mouth of a Democrat, it must be Satan speaking. Others simply just don't know any different. Either because they don't pay attention to the news, they don't pay attention to policy, they just don't know any different. It's always go in and whoever's got the R next to their name. But we're going to need to reach some of these folks, and it's going to be hard. It's going to be difficult. But what we really need to do as a Democratic Party is to reach out to the independents and the non-affiliateds, and that sadly small percentage of Republicans who know better. And we can talk to them all we want about, well, the CHIPS Act and the Infrastructure Act. And these are things that we do need to talk to them about. But we also need to talk to them at a much more base level. Do you enjoy voting, and would you like to continue to do it? Because that's what's at stake. Your wife, your partner, when you were a child, your mother, your aunts, who had a deformed fetus inside of them, that the government was making decisions for them. Because again, this is not hyperbole either. It's a slippery slope. The government decides you must give birth. It's not a stretch for them to then decide you can't have that job, female American. You can't marry that person. You can't leave the house. You can't not just have that job, you can't have any job. You can no longer own property, can't have your own credit card, on and up. We're not too far. The children that you are producing now must go in the military. And I'm not talking about a draft, I'm talking about forced service. These are not long distances to travel. Theoretically, these are not long distances to travel. Policy-wise, these are not long distances to travel. The American experiment is on the ballot in 2024. From dog catcher to president of the United States. Democracy is on the ballot. Does the Constitution survive, or does it end? That's what's on the ballot. Period. We can and should talk about how well the economy is doing. We can talk about the fact that wages are up, that unionization is up. There's an infrastructure bill, a CHIPS Act, that the number of Americans who have health insurance is once again climbing. It's not at the high that it was during the Obama administration, but it is recovering. These are good things. Like Randall mentioned, finally doing something to cap methane emissions, a much more potent greenhouse gas than carbon monoxide. The greatest greenhouse gas, by the way, is water vapor. That's a whole different topic for a different day. Methane is a much more dangerous and effective greenhouse gas. We can and we should be having these discussions. But at the end of the day, those discussions don't matter if none of us can vote. Folks voted in 2023 in record numbers for an odd year election. Moms for Liberty candidates across the country were voted down. And the ones that were already in were voted out. Only in very small pockets. And I'm sad to say that one of those small pockets is right here in Northampton County, where the Moms for Liberty people took over a school board. What was one of the best districts in the county. We'll see how long that lasts. But these folks were voted down. Randall mentioned the voting on the constitutional amendments in Kansas and Indiana, Ohio. Wait, do I have Indiana wrong? Am I thinking of Ohio?
No.
I think I have Indiana
No.
right. Where voters enshrined women's bodily autonomy and control over their own reproductive and healthcare decisions in state constitutions. How did that happen? Against
Deep
a
red
torrent.
state and deep red state.
And how did that happen against floods of money in the other direction? Because people showed up and voted. I've told you before on this show that if 100 people are in the room, 1 billionaire and the 99, there's more of us. And at the end of the day, that 1 billionaire still can only vote once. So can we. We can only vote once, but there's more of us. Voting in our own motivated self-interest is no longer self-interest. It becomes the common interest. 99%, 1%. Pretty darn sure 99 is the majority. Common interest. These things took place in deep red states, as Randall mentioned, and he's 100% correct, because people voted. And because the votes were so overwhelming that even the fascists couldn't take it away. So there is some reason for hope, but we have to vote. One of the great efforts that's going to come in 2024 is how many people come out to vote, how many new voters are registered. I saw some polling that there is a declining interest in voting with the youngest generation. And that's a really bad sign for Democrats. I would only say that that poll comes out 13 months before we go. No, sorry. 11 months before we go to the polls. And, you know, depending on where you are in the country, 9 to 11 months before you get your mail-in ballot. There's plenty of time to make that case. And there's plenty of time for young people to come to their own realizations that, wait, I can't sit this out. And I have every faith that they will do that. What else you got, my friend? I think I might quit at 8. I can't breathe. I'm not getting any air through my nose. So if I talk, I can't breathe.
So let me talk. I've been a big sci-fi fan since I read my first juvenile sci-fi novel in junior high school. That ages me when I use the word junior high school versus middle. And 1963, we had a novelist who came out with an incredible sci-fi novel, and that novel dealt with the future. It was the mega city from Boston to Washington D.C., and part of that mega city was New York City, and 99% of people had no job. They got water and they got Soylent Green. And Soylent Green, in the novel it states it's 90 degrees at 1 a.m. In New York City. And there's no, they were making Soylent, I can't remember what it was, but anyway, it's made from soybeans. Well, that the fields dried up except for the billionaire enclave surrounded by walls that had access to water for irrigation. And everything in that book went back to global warming and climate change. And the oceans died. And the last thing was plankton to make a wafer out of. And then they went to people. And that was Soylent Green. Because there was no more food for anyone except the ultra rich. And Soylent Green really affected me. I read that in high school in the late 60s. And that's been happening my whole life of global warming and consequential climate changes because of global warming. Another good book came out in, I think it was 84, The Handmaid's Tale. And that, again, Christian nationalism, ultra Christianity,
White Christian nationalism.
Yeah. Those things, both of those things are happening if we don't vote. If we don't vote next November, they will absolutely happen. So, look, I'm going to let you go. Hopefully somebody else will call in.
I hope so.
And that's why I'm going to let you go.
I'm also going to talk to my dear friend George, who's back.
Hey, George. Hi, buddy.
After a while, after a few weeks being away.
Hey, Randall. How you doing? Thank you very much for, my birthday wishes. And
hey, thank you for friending me on Facebook, buddy.
No problem.
Hard to believe that George is 29 already, isn't it, Randall?
Yeah, he's like around my age, isn't he? maybe in his 60s.
Hard to believe.
Totally wrong.
Our George is all grown up. He's all adulty and grown up now.
29. I don't know if I'm going to be Soylent Green or if I'm going to be Soylent Yellow. I don't know what it is.
Nice.
Right.
My God.
Right. Oh man.
Well, listen, you go and take care of yourself. Take my wishes as always to you, your wife, the family, and so on. And I know that there's not a huge possibility that I'm going to see you this weekend, but I hope by some miracle that I do. If I don't, I completely understand. But I hope by some miracle I do. But no matter what, you take care of yourself, take care of the family. I hope everybody remains well. there. And, you know, I just wish you the best that the holidays can bring. Eat a lot, get, take care of your neighbors. Forget about, God, it's complete opposite. Where's my brain? Don't forget about the folks who, are not doing as well as we are. And Christmas, New Year, all of it. I hope it's as happy as it can possibly be and completely filled with family and grandkids and all of it for you and yours.
I just want to say Merry Christmas, Jeff, for you and Christine and George. If you're a Christian, Merry Christmas to you. I want to wish the rest of the Hanukkah season
Yep.
to all my Jewish friends and everybody had. So I am going to say I'm not killing Christmas. I'm just going to say there are so many different types of Americans and so many different types of religions or non-religion
Yep.
in this country. Happy holidays to everyone and on the Kennedy effect. And happy holidays to everyone that follows Jeff on that other side of information. God bless everyone.
Thank you, my friend. George, welcome
I
home.
didn't do it, whatever it was. What?
Welcome home.
Thank you.
You have been sorely, sorely missed.
Yeah, my sinuses are acting up today. I mean, everybody is.
Well, that's what this started with.
Yeah.
Kristen's had some kind of sinus infection literally for months, but would not do anything about it. And I'm saying this live on the air because she knows I'm right. And I ain't right much, but she knows I'm right. She's had this thing dragging on for months, did nothing. If the roles were reversed and I had a sinus infection, she'd be driving. She'd, handcuff me and take me to the doctor to make sure that I went. She did nothing to do anything about this until it got so bad that it triggered. She's got autoimmune issues, so it triggered a bunch of other things and finally got it taken care of. But the damage is done. She got sick. Now I'm sick. I'm finding out there was a COVID positive person at an event I was at on Wednesday. I still think that's what's wrong. I really don't think that's what's wrong. I almost hope so. Could use a vacation, but stay home with COVID for a week. But perhaps I should get a test. So I found out about that. But yeah, I don't think there's anything I mentioned in the chat. I think it was with Fern that, I don't think there's anything deadly going on here. We're not, neither of us is dying, but it's extremely unpleasant. It's just one of those things. I'm getting a headache now from staring at these screens. They can't keep any air in because it's very hard to breathe through your mouth while you're talking with it. So there's all that, but it's just, the show isn't the same when you're not here, sir. So I'm glad to see you back. And I know that it's probably the changing weather as well, when it's, 30 something degrees one day and 50 the next, and then, in the 30s again, and then it's 60, and then, 20 and 30 degree temperature swings in a day are not
right.
In the summer, if it's 70 something at night, 90 during the day, that's a 25 degree temperature swing, but it's summer. It's still warm. When you go from
Not at our house, it's always minus 30, we live in a refrigerator in my house, and then and then we walk outside and like my glasses fog over and I slip on the ice in the hallway,
Well, it's like when you go from like the 30s to the 60s, that's a huge difference. It might be the same difference, mathematically, but that's a really big difference. You're going from winter to spring.
Yeah.
And, your body can't do too much of that every single day. You can't go from winter to spring to winter to spring to summer to winter to spring to spring to winter to winter to spring, and on and on and on. Your body's not made for that. It's the same reason we see trees, bud early, because it gets a little warmer. You'll see,
right.
The cat and the dog shed at different rates when they shouldn't be. They've been shedding like crazy. It's the middle of December. They shouldn't be shedding at all. Right. They should be retaining all their hair for warmth. They're shedding like crazy. because their natural body clocks are all screwed up too. But so is ours. I mean, it's dark at 4 o'clock. That's not. I don't know. It seems. I guess maybe I just didn't pay attention enough when I was a kid, but I just don't feel like I remember it being so dark so early when I
No,
was
I
a kid.
remember it being dark early. I remember it being
I don't
dark.
remember the moon being out so much during the day and so obvious. I don't remember. The weather definitely wasn't like this when I was younger. Of course, we always had heavy rainstorms and you get a blizzard every now and then, but we weren't part of Tornado Alley like we are now.
Yeah.
You didn't get hail almost every storm in the summer, things like that. I mean, you really do have to be blind, I think, in not literally blind, but figuratively, willfully blind to not see that there's something going on here that just isn't quite right. And well, let me ask you, George, while you're here, as we finish another calendar year, move into April, what is it? April 17th will be April 17th of 2024 will be 5 years.
Oh.
What do you think about where we are, what we've either accomplished or not accomplished, or still need to yet do, or what do you think?
We need to get that big TV in back of you. Yeah.
I
That's
really
bad.
do need to get that TV in back of me. I do. I absolutely do. Why do you think that?
We
Why do
accomplished
you
a
think
lot,
that
but
corner's empty? Look, why? That's why that corner is empty. I know. I've tried to do it. It's not working.
Yeah.
That's
no,
true. We need to
no,
finish this damn curtain.
yeah,
Get
Yeah.
that sky blue out of there.
that's true. I have to get a new hazmat suit if I have to get over to your house because
I know,
with all
feels
this RSV and COVID going on.
I just saw this week that still there are 1,000 people a week nationwide dying from COVID.
Yep.
1,000 people a week. Still. And there is still yet another new variant that's going to continue. That's science. Variants and mutations in genes are how humans became humans. We share 96% of our DNA with cats. Does anything look different? There are a few things that look more and more different from each other than a human being and a cat. We share 96% of our DNA with cats.
Oh, that's interesting.
So these viruses will continue to mutate. They will continue to change. COVID is a reality now, I think, for the rest of our existence. I do think it might eventually be relegated to something more like the flu, but 1,000 people a week. 1,000 people a week.
That's crazy.
You get 1,000 people anywhere in one place. It's a lot of people.
Yeah.
So 1,000 a week still dying from this virus. And I desperately hope I don't have it. I don't think I do, but I guess I should probably take a test when I go downstairs now that I saw that email. Yeah, you probably do need a hazmat suit to come over here. That's pretty. Ew. Well, so damn sick all the time.
Yeah, I know.
But yes, we need to. You're right. So what George is referring to is, there's a computer monitor over here. You might be able to see a tiny little corner of it behind the roll of paper towels that I've been using for tissues when I turn the camera off. And I've wanted to get that working so that it could show the things that were some of the things that George uses his Zoom Square for during the program. And I just simply have not been able to get the laptop that I have in this direction to recognize that monitor. I also don't have a big enough cable to connect it to the computer that I'm looking at you all at and still wind it around to this other end. So that's what he's talking about. If you've ever watched Tom Hartman's program, in addition to just listening to it, if you've ever watched it, Randy Rhodes actually does the same thing. She has a very large TV behind her. Mr. Hartman has one off to the side where the show's logo on, this logo that you're looking at that George has up on the screen. A logo that we need to fix, by the way, because it still says 5 p.m.
Yes, I know.
We'll do
Sorry
that
about that.
sometime.
I know.
Probably do that sometime in 2024.
Yep.
But,
I got another
so
demerit
that's what
there.
he's talking about. And then as far as behind me, I have pipe and drape set up. And I have another length of that I need a pipe cutter for, that George and I built this behind here. And if I ever get the one more length, I can spread out the rest of the way and cover up this blue behind you, or behind me, that you guys stare at every week. We could cover that up a little bit. Maybe sometime this year we'll actually be able to do the show the way we intended when we redid this room and took the beds out of here and so on. Is that, there's this computer station right here for George to sit at. And we actually had a third position set up directly across from me. Well, George has never actually physically been in this room to broadcast with me as we intended. So Kristen, has used that broadcast station before. But George has never been here to do it the way we intended. And Kristen was going to sit across the way. And, George was going to sit there, and he was going to change the pictures and memes and so on this computer screen that was going to be behind me. He had his own mic. He'd be able to turn his camera on and off, and mic on and off. And Kristen was going to sit across the way, and all of that disintegrated as we continued to get sick. George and his and Lynn, they fought COVID, and Lynn has autoimmunes. Kristen has autoimmunes, and the thing about living with someone with autoimmune is if she gets something, I get it. Not because I have autoimmune, but because if she gets it, I'm going to get it. Kind of what happened this time. Happens to George. So we kind of just kept getting sick. And then you didn't have a car for a while.
I still don't have a car.
You still don't have a car. So that makes it hard to get the 45.
Yeah, that makes it hard to get
here.
Anywhere.
Right. So hopefully sometime in 2024, we'll be able to do that and actually do the show that we had always intended to do.
Mm-hmm.
And that is the boss across the way and the other boss to my side and fancy screen behind you.
Mm-hmm.
I would like to say, though, and I don't want to forget, first off, let me do this. It's 8:02 p.m. We're entering our final hour. I have no idea how much longer we're going to keep going because it's getting harder and harder to breathe, as you can probably hear. I can't keep any air. And it's funny because it's not my inhaler. It's not necessarily asthma. I just can't. I can't breathe while I'm talking. But so it's 8:02, and wherever you might be in the Facebook universe, well over 100 places that we have shared to this week. I did 103 by myself. I don't know who else has shared, but the over 100 places that we have shared to. Thank you. And I know I went on an extended thank you at the beginning of the program, but again, this is our last live program of the year. Let me again thank every single one of you, all the groups, all of them, every single one, all of you, public, private, large, small, inside and outside Pennsylvania, wherever you might be. Thank you for allowing us into your little part of the Facebook world. And I do mean little part because it's an enormous thing. Half the planet's on Facebook. More than half the planet, I think 2/3. So thank you for that. We appreciate it. We couldn't do it without you. We could not be here if you are not there. And I mentioned last week that the number of individuals that share the program has grown. The number of groups that allow us to share onto their pages has grown. The number of groups who will maybe not see the post when I send out an announcement or the show itself. They might see it Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and yet continue to approve it. That has grown. The Hot 101 audience has grown. The number of people who follow us, and I still mean us. I might be the face that's here every week, but it's Kristen, it's April, it's George, it's Lynn, everybody associated with the program on Instagram and TikTok and Twitter, for whatever we're calling it these days, has grown, not by leaps and bounds, but it's grown. Almost every week there's at least one new TikTok person. Sometimes some weeks there's double-digit new people. Sometimes it's 3, 5, something like that. There's usually one new one each week. And some of them are groups that have a TikTok account. So that's even more exciting. So something good is happening. We're getting somewhere. And as you can tell, and as I've always said, I have an enormous ego. I can't shut up. And it's the other reason that we try to do this. We don't do it to start fights. We don't do it to name call. We don't do it to shame anybody. You know, my dear friend Bob Smith was on the program a few weeks ago, before the election. And yeah, he and I disagree on a lot of different things, but we also have a fundamental affection for each other, care about each other. I think we'd be there for each other if anything bad ever happened, if we ever needed a roof over our heads or food or clean clothes or anything like that. We just happen to disagree on policy. And, you know, I'm never going to have anybody on this program that we're going to, you know, I'm not going to stand on top of this desk and show off and scream. And I've been swearing more lately, which I really shouldn't be doing, but I'm not here to make anybody look foolish. We're just here to talk about the truth, to talk about science, about facts, about data, and about history, because they speak to us, or at least they should be speaking to us. And quite honestly, they are speaking to us. We just simply have to listen. And this message, this theme, if you will, that we've tried to carry through this program since the very beginning continues to grow. Facebook, YouTube, TikTok especially, and Instagram and X. It's growing. So thank you. We couldn't do it without you. Again, we don't pay to boost the program. We don't pay to broadcast it. It's partly why Facebook shuts me down occasionally, because we don't pay them any money. So when you allow us into your group, your page, your own individual space, it's what we live on. It's what we live on. From a video point of view, from an audio point of view, hot101.net, our name is our web address. If you can connect to the internet anywhere on this planet or above it, you can listen to hot101.net. And you don't need the main website to do it. You're welcome to go there. It's lovely. It's very easy to navigate. But you can use our apps, Apple App Store, Google Play Store, and the TuneIn Radio app to listen to us. You can also tell Alexa to play hot101.net. Our listenership there continues to grow as well. The listenership for hot101.net overall continues to grow, as does ours. TCP Media Group continues to be an important part of our family. We're proud to be part of them and continue to be part of them. TCP might not exactly function the way it was, but it continues to be a presence. It continues to be important and informative, and you need to check them out, especially if you are in the Lancaster, PA area where they originate from, but they are certainly not restricted to just that. Check them out. Important news, community events, points of view, programming still there on the Facebook group of TCP, the TCP Media Group. 50,000, I think, plus followers at TCP. You can be one of them. You should be one of them. And of course, our lone sponsor. That's something that happened here in 2023. We got a sponsor, the PayGive app. It's right there, paygive.org, www.paygive.org. The PayGive app is a financial transaction app. You can make purchase gift cards through it. You can exchange money, things like that. It's financial. Every time that you do that, they, of course, take a fee. That's how they make money. There's nothing wrong with making money in this country. But what they also do is they offer you the ability to take a percentage of that fee and designate it to a charity of your choice. It could be animal charities, veterans charities, health-related charities like the American Lung Association, American Cancer Society, the ASPCA. There are veterans charities involved. There are children's, all sorts of charities. The vendors that they work with, there are 50,000 different vendors, literally, that they work with, including the biggest retailers on the planet. Home Depot, Lowe's, Walmart, Amazon, Target, the biggest retailers in this country, and conversely around the world. When you do anything through PayGive, you can designate a piece of that to go to a charity of your choice, and you should. The PayGive app, when you buy things, you have to pay for them. Why not give while you do it? When I think back a little bit into this year, I realized that at the beginning of the year, I was not working the same job that I'm working now. I worked, I had been a customer service agent the entire year. Certainly not what I was originally trained for, not what all my traditional work career experience has been. And I was at a different job at the beginning of the year than I am now. And one of the things that I would say is that while I did not and do not particularly overly enjoy either job, the people I work with are stellar. I keep in touch with the folks where I was working at the very beginning of 2023. I still keep in touch with them. And it's these relationships that I think we need to continue to build upon as Americans, to re-sow those lines of communication, those friendships, reset, rebuild, regrow, reconnect the different elements of society. I may not exactly be doing what I want to be doing for a living, but I'm fortunate that I'm doing something. That attitude alone kind of takes me back to the very beginning of the program where we were talking about normalizing poverty. I'm very thankful to have a job. I mean, money is how we keep the lights on, keep the roof over our heads, keep food in our stomachs, an ever increasing stomach for me. I can't say that I particularly enjoy what I do, but I'm very glad that I'm doing something. And I suppose that's kind of one of the kind of conundra, if you will, of a modern society. Should we, it's actually one of the things that came out of COVID that I actually thought was quite good. That it seemed the folks on the right would always make, oh, nobody wants to work anymore. No, lots of people want to work. Everybody wants to work. They just don't want to be shit on it anymore. They want to be treated like garbage. The people that were needed, really genuinely needed during COVID to continue to work, a very measurable number of whom got sick and died. The American economy, I think, woke up a bit during COVID. That, wait, they need us. The billionaires need us. I think that's why you're seeing a rise in unionization. I think that's why you're seeing a rise. Now, the right would call it cancel culture. I call it voting with your wallet. I think that's why we're seeing a rise in these, I would say, softer boycotts of the Hobby Lobbies, the Wendy's, Walmarts of the world, because you simply don't agree with what they espouse, which is perfectly fine, by the way. That's supposed to be American. So I might not be doing what I love, but I am happy to be doing something. And I'm caught in that own conundrum myself. Is this all I am? Do I have to keep doing this every day? Should I do something differently? And these are the questions that I think we can and should be asking ourselves as a society. Is this all that we are? Are we no better than this? Don't we have a right to be happy? And is this thing that I'm doing now actually making me happy? Or isn't it? And if it's not, what am I going to do about it? These are part of the fundamental freedoms that our nation has always granted, that we fought for, continue to fight for. And I think they're all up for grabs in 2024. As I mentioned when Randall was on the phone, it's not a long distance to go in your brain to think, well, the government is already telling women in about a third of the country when they will give birth. The government, think of, even if you are fundamentally put off by the abortion debate, think of it that way. Governmental entities are telling women, you will give birth. All the power of the government has now rained down upon you to tell you, you will give birth. Is it really that much of a stretch to think that the same forces that brought that to us would then take extra steps to say you can't vote that way, or you can't vote at all? You will not work that job. You will work the job we tell you. You can't marry that person. You can't live in that town. You can't go to this school. That's totalitarianism. One might not think that abortion is the first step in that direction, but when you think of it as governmental control over the very basic decisions that you make about your life in a given day, and some folks might think that, abortion is not a very basic decision. Okay, I agree, but it is a bodily autonomy decision. It's a decision that you make about your own body. I'm going to have this child or I'm not. Or my doctor has told me that this child is so malformed, sick, and diseased in my own womb, it's going to kill me. So I'm going to stop this. And a government is coming in to tell you, no, you're not. If it kills you, oh, too bad. Because we have a political agenda and we have to keep the millions of dollars rolling in. Is it really so hard to think that the next thing might be, oh, wait, you're white and you fell in love with a woman from China? Well, you can't marry that person. And hell, I'm not even talking about gay marriage. I'm just talking about marriage in general. It was illegal in this country for a very long time for people of different skin colors to get married. We evolved. We grew up. Is it so hard to think that we could tack backward again? You've heard countless people, Republican elected officials, say that all Democrats should be rounded up and put in concentration camps, if not just outright killed. Is it really that hard in your minds to travel from women will be told when to give birth to, oh, Or I have to wear a blue D on my shirt. Very reminiscent of the Jewish stars that had to be worn in Germany in the late 30s. It's not that far. Moms for Liberty is banning books. They're banning books in the United States of America in 2023. They're banning books. Not because they genuinely believe there's something wrong with those books, but because they're a wonderful, wonderful wedge issue to incite anger in people who will then act against their own self-interest so billionaires can destroy public education and strip it from the 99% and only give it to people who can afford it. This is where we are in 2023. We are fighting issues that go back to the Dark Ages. The serfs and the peasants, they can't read. We can't allow them to read. And then the printing press was invented, and it couldn't be stopped. So then the church and the billionaires decide, well, they weren't billionaires then, but we'll control what they can. They can only read the Bible. And you had these religious autocracies and these theocracies and this collaboration between the church and the richest across the continent. And that fell away during the Enlightenment. I mean, I guess really at the end of it, I just go back to the same basic questions that I asked at the beginning. Is this all that we are? Are we no better than this? Do we not deserve better than this? Or even maybe the hardest question of all, that we actually have answers to all those questions. We do know better. We are better than this. So why are we allowing this? What are we going to do about it? And the cure to all of it is voting. I am going to be talking about voting during 2024 more than you can stand. So get used to it. You better get used to it. We're going to be talking about voting a lot this year. You simply must vote. Period. You gotta vote. Nothing that we talk about on this program, if it is important to you, if you agree with it, is ever going to happen if we don't vote. Period. And if you don't agree with it, that's fine too. That's the American way. In this modern era, it's one of the biggest things that separates Democrats and Republicans right now. As a Democrat, if Bob Smith comes on this program and says, I don't agree with you, I think this is the better way to go for this policy or to solve this problem, I say, okay, we can disagree. But about 40% of the country, the Trump followers, have now decided that Bob Smith should shoot me rather than us parting as friends and saying, well, we just don't agree. Rather than hearing each other out and deciding that we simply don't agree with each other, they think he should kill me simply because I'm a Democrat. That's where we are. We have very, very fundamental questions to ask ourselves in 2024. I wish they were questions like, should we continue to move in a direction where solar, wind, geothermal, tidal are the power, are the way that we generate electricity, and that everything that we do becomes electric, and that we power it from the sun and from wind? Or are we going to be in the streets, blue and red, armed, shooting at each other? I want the entire discussion to be, why does this public school not work? What can we do better? I do not want the discussion to be, shut the public school down. Poor Black kids don't get an education. And in the South, poor white kids, because there's a lot of them too. You can't afford it? Sure, you can come into school. You got any money? Nope. Okay, go home. Go work in the factory. Go work in the slaughterhouse. Go work in the fields. I think it all comes down to those questions. Who are we? They're not having these discussions around the rest of the world. The Australians are not having these discussions. Japanese are not having these discussions. The South Koreans. There's some nations where they are. India, Turkey, Russia, Hungary, Italy. But they remain the minority. We are not the only country having this discussion about how far the right wing is going to go. Is our nation going to cease to exist as we knew it? We're not the only country having that discussion, but we're the largest and the most powerful, and still the largest nuclear arsenal on the planet, if I'm not mistaken, or the second largest. Certainly the largest navy. That's why it's a big deal. I think anything that's coming in 2024 comes down to those discussions. Who are we? Is this all that we are? Are we no better than this? Do we not deserve better than this? It's been my political philosophy since I moved back to Pennsylvania and first started having the honor of talking to different candidates around who began to seek out my advice. How do I reach these people? Ask them questions. Is this all that you are? Is this all that you really deserve? Aren't you better than this? Aren't we as a society and a community better than this? And I think these are the questions that we're going to be asking ourselves as a country in 2024. And I hope that the majority of us answer those with a solid voice, and that we follow that voice into the voting booth. I think we're going to end here at 8:30. Sergeant Mack is coming up next. The Villain's View is live from 9 p.m. on hot101.net, although I might send him a message to tell him that we're going to end, and then he can hop on even sooner. One of the great things that happened this year is the Villain's View. I think they started in 2023, George, I think. I think it was this year that they started.
Yeah, I think it was this year.
Grown out of this program. And that's a great thing. I love it. It's wonderful. And I hope that more of that happens. So please, if you're on hot101.net listening to us now, stay right where you are. If you're on our home group Facebook page, stay where you are. The Villain's View will be coming up live. He's actually already on. Apparently, George told me he's already on Facebook right now. But I will drop him a note that we plan to end. typing it. Dead air on the radio, super fun. George, any last thoughts you want to send out to the folks before we say goodbye for 2023?
Oh, have a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. That's all I can think of. Or a Happy Holiday, excuse me.
Oh, you're buying into the war on Christmas, are you? You're becoming part of it?
No.
Casualty of the war on Christmas, are you? But here's the deal. The reason we won't be with you again in 2023 is very simple. I will be traveling next weekend. Then it's Christmas Eve, New Year's Eve. Our plan, barring anything unforeseen, our plan is to be back with you live on the 7th of January, 2024. And believe me, when we start saying that, 2024, let the games begin. Release the hounds. All hands on deck. It's going to be quite something. It's going to be a hell of a year for everyone associated with the Kennedy Effect. For Marquise, Whitney, Andrew, Taekwon at the TCP Media Group. For DJ Lex, DJ Earl, DJ Chino, Waterboy, and more DJs than I can name. And everyone associated with Hot101.net. For our sponsors at PayGive and Bob Kosh for bringing us together. For George and Lynn Dare. For the newest and soon to be sworn in, and I think today's the 10th. I believe she gets sworn in about 3 weeks. The newest Lehigh County Commissioner, April Riddick. And of course, for Days of the Dog, Guy the Cat. And by this time next year, now I'm going to pay attention to the comments well after the program is over to see who catches this bit and see how many into the future on YouTube or I should have said, if you missed any of the program, youtube.com/that other side of information. It's right there. YouTube, best place to catch up with the program. And by this time next year, by December 10th, 2024, in this household, we will be about 3 weeks away. Here comes the test to see who's really paying attention. About 3 weeks away from a wedding. So for Kristen, and again, for everybody that surrounds this program, I am eternally grateful to all of you. Every single one of you. Every group, every page, everyone at Hot101.net, everyone at TCP, everyone at PayGive, everyone who follows us on all of our social media platforms. Please check out our home group Facebook page, That Other Side of Information. It never goes away. We'll be posting articles all through the holidays and all through our time off. Our plan, again, barring anything unforeseen, is to return to you on January 7th. For everyone associated with the program, we wish you the warmest and best of holiday seasons. Happy Christmas. Have a happy new year. Surround yourself with friends and family and good food and good times. Make memories. Please don't ever forget about our neighbors that don't have as much as we do. Help them. That is one of the basics of the holiday season. Help out. If you attend Mass, I hope it is wonderful. Spread the best of the season to your congregations and to all the friends and family that have ever called in, listened, anybody that this show has ever touched. We wish you the absolute best of this holiday season. It will be 2024. Can you imagine? It will be 2024. When it went from 1999 to 2000, didn't we all think, gosh, 2024 is a really, really long way away? Well, blink, and here we are. January 7th, the Kennedy Effect returns to you live. Until then, a blessed, merry, happy Christmas and a happy new year. enjoy, stay safe, take care of your friends and neighbors who have less than you do. It is the spirit of the season. We'll see you on the 7th. I think we've done all the damage we can do for tonight and for 2023. God bless you all. Have a great night, and we look forward to seeing you in January. Have a great holiday season. Take care. The Villain's View comes up right now.